Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor, and I'm feeling super awkward because my son and his girlfriend are in the next room, and I don't think they can hear me, but it's just kind of, I'm used to not having anybody around me, and I feel like I'm actually talking to somebody. But when somebody's in the other room, I feel more like I'm talking to myself and somebody's hearing me talk to myself. So anyway, we're just going to do it anyway. So the topic of the day is helplessness. Um, I don't even remember what the topic was this morning in my meeting, but I heard the word helplessness and it like kind of felt like a dagger in my chest. I was like, oh, what a powerful word. Um, what it means, like the memories that come to me when I think of the word helplessness is just absolutely aching in my chest. The memories of how helpless I felt and I have felt in certain situations in my life, but mainly right before I got sober and right before I left my job in stroke recovery. So I wanted to talk a little bit about helplessness. And I'm sure we'll bring it back to this peace of mind. You know, we've been talking a lot about peace of mind over the past few days. And so why break that theme? But also talking a little bit about trusting the road ahead and how we can move from this feeling of helplessness to a feeling of peace. And so I was thinking, what does helplessness feel like to me? It's like, it feels like a heavy feeling in my gut, like my stomach is just twisted and that my heart is sinking into that twisted stomach. And I feel like I'm thinking, what's going to happen? Um, I'm thinking that I don't think there's any possibility that things are going to change. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. And I feel like I'm a victim of the world around me, that life is happening to me. And it's really paralyzing, especially when you're going through something and you get to this feeling of helplessness. That's just like this another level, so that's why I wanted to talk about it just brings back like a lot of powerful memories for me. It feels overwhelming. This it's like my this self-talk is saying nothing is going to change. What is happening right now to you, nothing will ever change, and it will always be this way. Nothing will ever get better. There is no solution. That's what it feels like. And um, it's a feeling I was trying to pull it apart this morning, really peel back the layers of what helplessness feels like. And it feels like I have no control. Or you never have control over people, places, and things, but helplessness feels like um, I don't even have control over my own actions, that there are no actions I can take. I have lost control over everything, and it's never going to change. It's catastrophic thinking. It's being scared of the decisions that I'm gonna make as well as the decisions that I've made. It is this fear that I've already said the word stuck, but I am caught in this space. I'm trapped in this space in my life, and there's no way to ever get out of it. It's my own little jail cell, and I've talked about that before too. It can be crippling, but what I realized as I was trying to peel back the layers on this idea in my mind of what helplessness is, where it comes from, and how you fight it, defeat it. Um, it's based on self-talk, and it's not always the reality of the situation. It's our perspective. Um, the good thing is that we can always change our perspective. It doesn't feel like it at the time, but with practice, mainly in this program that I share about, we can change our perspective. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of trust in the process. And yeah, practicing it in all of our affairs so that when the rubber hits the road and there's something that really feels too big, a mountain too big to climb, that you've already got the tools in your toolbox to tackle it. So a lot of us, I heard this morning, make the mistake of thinking that peace is somewhere out in the distance. And I've talked about this recently, that once I get to that destination, that's where the peace is. And that's why I think for me, when I was drinking, I felt like peace of mind was out there somewhere. And right here, it is I'm helpless. There's no I can't save myself. And I certainly, unless I go shouting from the rooftops, nobody's going to help me. Nobody's going to save me. And I couldn't see what was going to happen. I couldn't see that where the road was going to lead me. I never imagined in a million years that I would walk into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and I would want to stay, that I would keep coming back. That's not something that seems very much like me. I was just so into not giving a shit about anything. And so when I saw I dug deep for how I could criticize AA. And I did criticize AA and everybody in it for all the years that I went to AA and kept drinking. It wasn't until I stopped criticizing and started looking inward that I started to be able to take some sort of action about my helplessness, that feeling of being, um, I was killing myself and I can't stop. That was my helplessness. And when I entered stroke recovery and I sat out on my front porch that last day of work and I cried and I thought, nothing's going to change unless something changes. And I was the one that was going to have to change. I was the one that was going to have to do the hard thing. And the feeling of helplessness for me has always been if not knowing that I have the strength and the courage to do that hard thing. And once I was able to start practicing this program and learning more about myself, um, I've learned that I can really do absolutely anything if I have to. I have the courage to do absolutely anything if I have to save myself. And and I haven't felt helpless, truly helpless since then. Since I've started to learn from practicing the steps. Even when earlier this year, when I was feeling, and when I was in so much pain and feeling that this chronic pain, this chronic whatever I feel, this vestibular disorder is what I'm calling it. And that's what I'll call it because that's the closest I've gotten to a diagnosis. But in my stroke recovery, even when I was feeling hopeless, I didn't feel helpless. And I think that there's a difference. Um, yeah, I think that helplessness feels like there's nobody or nothing that can help you. And I will never believe that again because I know that I have this relationship with my concept of my higher power, and that will always be there and that will always help me. How could I feel helpless knowing that I have that now? Um, Hopeless? Yeah, I can feel hopeless. I haven't lately. I haven't felt hopeless since I've saw my psychiatrist. But I think, yeah, again, I think those are two very different things. Helpless for me feels like I'm solo, like I'm living life on my own and I have nobody else that's going to help me. And I know now that I have a community of other drunks just like me. I have a community of other vestibular patients just like me. And I have a group of stroke survivors just like me. And I've got my family, I've got my friends, I've got my higher power, and I have my puppies, and we've been able to get me through this, all of us. Yeah, and I think it's important that when people feel helpless, if you feel helpless, um, it is because I think you don't understand that there is support out there and that there is this higher power thing um, that can make you feel not alone anymore. But I get it. Some of the heavier stuff, like the real hard stuff in life, takes work. And I don't think I really worked on myself a day in my life until I walked into the detox center when I was 42. I don't think I truly understood the amount of work it takes to be a good a good version of myself, like a version of myself that I'm proud of. The version of myself that's confident. I didn't I didn't do the work that it would take for that. I played the part a lot. I played the part of confidence. I was in drama when I was in high school. I was pretty good at that too. And I think I mentioned that I wanted to do drama in college, but it would have impeded on my partying. So I didn't do that. That's one of the regrets that I have, but meh. Um, anyway, we can't just, you know, wave this magic wand and make these really complex feelings of ours go away. It requires effort to move that negativity aside in order to surface joy and hope and all of the good stuff, the serenity, and to move past the helplessness. And I think the helplessness, now that I'm really kind of talking through it, the helplessness was like a cork on the top of my dark place. And I did not know how to remove that. I didn't even know how to dig deep and get to all of that negativity, to get to all of that stuff that needed to come out of my dark place because the cork on top, the helplessness, because I felt alone. And I felt alone because my disease itself was feeding my own isolation. It wanted me dead, my disease. And this helplessness was, I think, self-created, really. I think the disease helped me to create that feeling of helplessness because that's what it's doing. That's what it wants to do. I've talked about it before. This disease is like a living, breathing monster, and it wants to kill me. And I have to, I have to not feed it. And when I was an active alcoholic, when I was drinking, um, that helplessness was that cork that was keeping me away from healing, keeping me away from the solution. So, gosh, it still boggles my mind. I say it all the time. I don't know how on earth I went from how I uncorked that. I don't know. Um, I had people that were trying to help me. I had people that were trying to talk to me and tell me that I was killing myself. I had my daughter saying it's okay to try again. But what actually made that shift happen for me? I heard today reiterated, I hear it a lot, is when the last thing we lost or the next thing we're going to lose is more important than the booze. That's when we stop. And I think that helplessness, when I feel helplessness or when I felt helplessness, my eyes were closed. I couldn't see what there was. The solution was there. I couldn't see anything around me. I could only see the pain on the inside of my dark place because I had a cork on top. So I thought of this idea today about being a victim of life or a passenger of life. And when I feel helpless, it's like life is driving me down a road that I don't want to be on. I'm in the back seat, staring out the window, wondering what's going to happen next. And I feel like I have just complete lack of control of the car, and it's just going to go flying off the edge. And there's nothing I can do about. That is being a victim of life. For me, that's what that feels like. But there's another way to look at it. I can still be in the car. I can still be in the back seat. I can still be staring out the window. Personally, I have to keep my eyes shut. So But I can put on my seatbelt, which would be the tools of my program, and sit back and be a passenger and believe that trust that I have the intelligence and the patience and all the other good stuff to deal with what life gives me when it does. And that is what I've been learning how to do. And it's not easy to do that. That's why I say my prayers before I go to bed every night, because I have to remind myself, thy will be done, not mine. That means you drive the car and I'm going to sit in the back seat. And I'm not going to hold on for dear life. I'm just going to close my eyes. And literally, so as a passenger, I can trust the driver, which is my higher power. If you want to call it that, you can call it the universe. You can call it whatever you want, but it's knowing that you have no control over people, places, and things. You have no control over the outcome. And um and that bad things might happen, but they're supposed to happen. That's just the way the life is. That's what life is. And I have to trust that each turn, even the scary turns in my life, are necessary for me to get where I need to go. And in my life right now, where I'm going is not where I had set out to go. It's like I got in the car to go on a road trip and somebody took a wrong turn somewhere because here I am. And this isn't how I planned it to be. But this is the way that it's supposed to be. This is just the way that my life is. There's no way around it. And I don't need to know why things are this way. All I need to do is do the best that I can with what I've been given. And I don't have to know what the next turn is. That's the thing that I kept talking to my psychiatrist about, was that I don't know what's going to happen. I kept telling her, I don't know what's going to happen. And that was because I was applying for Social Security. I was applying for long-term disability, going to doctors. Nobody knew why I had a stroke. Nobody knows why I had a stroke, but nobody knew what my symptoms were from. Nobody still knows what my symptoms are from, but we're closer to some ideas. And the pivot point for me of being a little more comfortable in where I'm going is getting approved by Social Security Disability, because I believe that a lot of my fear was financial fear. And I think that's a real thing. It's sad, but that's a real thing, that I didn't know if I was going to be supported. I had set my future up financially at work, um, just in case. That's what we do. We get health insurance, we get long-term disability insurance, we get death and dismemberment and life insurance and all these things. I never actually thought I was going to use it. Never. Never. As much as you don't think you're ever going to need death and dismemberment or life insurance or long-term disability, same. I didn't think I was going to either, and here I am. I had a stroke when I was 46. I didn't think my life was going to go that way, but it did. And here I am. And I'm still smiling. I still have good days. I was downstairs laughing with my son and his girlfriend. And I need to trust the process, that this life is a process. The serenity prayer is a process. I talked about that yesterday. Same thing. It all ties together, all of this stuff that I'm talking about trying to maintain this peace of mind. And I've done a terrible job maintaining a peace of mind over the past year. But I've tried really hard and I think I've done a really good job. Um, so, how do we let go of that feeling of helplessness? How do we move from being a victim of life to a passenger in life? So, here are a few things that I do, and they help me on a daily basis to move, not because I feel helpless on a daily basis, but I have to work at maintaining lack of helplessness. Which means I have to work at maintaining my peace of mind. And so when I start having feelings like I did the other day about it's terrible living like this, I told you there was a moment that I felt trapped in a body that doesn't work. And that is a feeling of helplessness. So actually, I did feel helplessness. Um, Helpless. I don't know. Now I'm getting confused when I say helpless and helplessness. But so what do I do about it? Well, I come here and I tell you about it. That's one of the main things that I do. I talk about it because if I'm feeling it, somebody else in the world is feeling it. And hopefully that somebody else will run across this episode sometime and be like, yeah, yeah, she gets it. She gets it. So I come here and I talk about it. I don't expect all people to start a podcast account and start talking publicly about how they feel. But that's what I chose to do because I was desperate to help other people not go through what I'm going through and the emotions that I have dealt with. Um, so that's the first thing. Write it down. That's what I heard this morning. Somebody else said, when I feel like something is blocking my peace of mind, I write it down. So the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, I go to that AA meeting and then I go to another AA meeting. And what I'm doing while I'm in those meetings is I'm writing in my notebook, in my Remarkable. And I'm writing down not always what the topic is, but things that I start thinking about as I'm listening to the literature and I'm listening to people share. It brings back memories of things. It brings back feelings that were sometimes crippling for me. And helplessness was one that came up today. And that's what I decided I needed to write about. So I write it down, and you can write things down in the form of a journal entry. For me, it's just notes. I just write down what I'm thinking. And I have one of our listeners doodles, and I think that's an amazing way of being creative and getting your thoughts out. And you've also got the God box that wherein you write down whatever it is that's bothering you, put it on a piece of paper and stick it in a box and shut the box. To me, shutting the box is the most important part because it is getting out of me and for me, into my higher power's hands. I don't have to hold on to it anymore. It's symbolic, but it works for me. Another way to change perspective from victim to passenger, I talk to my puppies. So I'm serious. I talk to my dogs a lot, and sometimes they are all I need to listen to me talking, because they're right here with me when I have feelings that bubble up. And there's something soothing about talking when I have something that bubbles up and there's somebody listening, even though they don't know how to speak English. I believe that my Weimaraner speaks German. And I don't, and that's why we don't understand each other. But anyway, that's hilarious, but it's true. And so I like talking to them because they listen and they don't judge me. So, and then I get snuggles afterwards. So that helps. Another way is to go to a meeting. So whether that's a sobriety meeting because you're an alcoholic, or a stroke survivor meeting, or um, vestibular support group, like whatever it is that you need support for, go to your support group and talk. Like, sharing how you're feeling is amazing. Like, being able to just speak your truth and have somebody else nod their head. There is something amazing about that, where you just don't feel alone anymore. And that is what getting helplessness out of you is all about. Like, that's how you do it. That is the definition of removing helplessness, is having somebody nodding, and then you're like, yeah, we get it. We can find a solution together. It's not just you by yourself. And then finally, pray. And I know sometimes, I talked about yesterday, I forget to do that when I need it the most, but I do it every night religiously. Huh? You like what I did there? And when I do, I am stopping helplessness in its tracks. You know, it's all the feelings that are the seeds of helplessness. That's what I'm battling when I say my prayers at night, because that is what I'm trying to do, is make sure that I nurture my relationship with my concept of my higher power so that I don't ever feel alone. And the only way that I can do that is to continue to talk to my concept of my higher power. So there's something I heard today, which is pretty cool. Um, Alcoholics approach life differently than non-alcoholics. So this is what I heard today. Non-alcoholics change their behavior to meet their goals. Like, if they want to run a marathon, they start running more. They adjust their behavior in order to meet the goal. But alcoholics do the opposite. We change our goals to match our behavior. So if I'm invited to a restaurant and there's no alcohol, I'm not going to go to the restaurant. If something gets in the way of my drinking, I lower the bar for myself. So great example was, I mentioned earlier in this episode how I wanted to do theater in college, but it was going to get in the way of my drinking. So I didn't do it. My goal when I went to college was I was going to join theater there because I enjoyed it so much in high school. And that was my goal. But I had to change my goal because it was going to get in the way of my behavior. So, we convince ourselves that our behavior is okay. And it's the goal that needs to change. So, I thought that was really, I don't know, that just really struck me this morning. And I think that's why helplessness bubbles up, because any activity that I would do that involved people and solutions and stuff, if it didn't, um, I can't think of the word, if it didn't work with my drinking, then that part would change and the drinking would stay until I was just 100% isolated. And I think I think that's my takeaway today is the connection between drinking and isolation and how that helplessness is a product of that. Um, so I have been learning over the course of my sobriety to change my behavior to reach my goals. And actually, that was a lot of what we talked about with my psychiatrist, but we didn't talk about it, reference it exactly that way. But that is kind of what we were doing because my behavior at times can be quite, I want to say manic. Like I'm just all over the place and I have all these goals and I never reach any of them because I'm doing too much. And so, in order to reach my goals, I had to focus on one goal at a time. And when I started doing that, I started feeling a lot more calm, peaceful, peace of mind. I started to feel a lot more methodical about the way that I was living, my behavior, and I'm much further away from feeling helpless when I slow down. I think that helplessness runs in parallel with a bit of chaos for me. So, so next time you're feeling helpless, think about these ideas about switching. Are you using the perspective of a victim of life or a passenger? Can you change your perspective to be more of a passenger and understand that you don't have to have all the answers and that you can trust the road is going to lead you exactly where you need to go. You are right now exactly where you're supposed to be. And that doesn't mean that as a passenger, we don't do any work. It means that all that work, the work is in remaining a passenger and not turning into a victim, you know? So, because remember that peace, my idea is that the peace is always here. The peace of mind is always here. Serenity is always here. The joy is always here. We just have to move all the other stuff out of the way and that helplessness out of the way, take the cork off of the dark place. And that's the part that takes a lot of the work. So thank you for listening to me today on the Recovery Daily podcast. I will talk to you tomorrow.